Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crime and Entertainment. Now, today we have another one of our 9/11 stories. We put out a few this week for the anniversary. Those stories were absolutely amazing. I'm sure this is going to be right up there with them to just take in all the accounts of heroism that went on by random people, bystanders, and of course, firefighters, which we have on the show today. Please welcome David Carpenter Jr. David, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, thank you, sir.
Well, look, I'm glad you could stop by the show. I'm glad you could tell this story because obviously this week was the anniversary of 9/11. The world, I don't think will hopefully never see nothing quite as bad as that day. I mean, that's one of the things that I think I'll probably live, remembering just like it happened, and that was from me watching it on TV. Obviously, people
Right.
were there firsthand and seeing the kind of situations and things that was taking place. It had to be, I can't even imagine. I can't even put myself in that situation, and especially being someone with your job where most people, you see on video are running out. Y'all have got the exact opposite job is to run in. But before we get to 9/11, let's kind of go back just a little bit. Where did you come up? Were you a native New Yorker, and what led you into becoming a firefighter?
Well, yeah, I'm a native New Yorker, but I live in Clayton, North Carolina right now.
Clayton, North
Ever since I
Carolina.
was Clayton, North Carolina.
I'm in
Yes,
South
sir.
Carolina, so not too far.
Okay. Awesome, awesome. Great state. Yeah, so I was raised in my mom was in EMS and raised in around the volunteer ambulance corps there in Ossining, New York. And we lived right behind a firehouse, so I got to know all the guys. And then at 17, I joined the volunteer fire department in Ossining, and that's how I got my foot in the door with the fire department and stuff like that. Did went to when I graduated high school, I went into the army for 4 years. Was down in Panama during the Noriega
Hmm.
stuff, and I came back and I still stayed in the fire department. And I had a good friend of mine in the firehouse. His name was Dougie Halleck, and he gave me the application. Said you need to fill this out. You'll be great on the job, which we call the fire department. And I took the test and had got took about 4 years to get hired through all the physical training, the physical test, the mental test, the medical test, psychological, all that stuff. So
Hmm.
then I got the letter, and I was October 15th, 1995. I I went into the FDNY uh, firefighter probationary school in uh, in the Bronx,
Okay.
and did that. Got on the job. Got assigned to 83 engine. It's in the South Bronx. Did that. Uh, Bounced around a couple of firehouses just as far as training was going on and stuff like that. Then I went back to
How
83.
rigorous was that training, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, it was good. It was good 3 months of we were just starting. They were just implementing the EMS part of firefight. Like when a firefighter goes, the EMS or they call an ambulance. Now they send a fire truck, and we were just starting
Right.
to do that. So we were trained as basically certified first responders with a defibrillator, so we can use the shock stuff. Just a couple hours short of an EMT.
Right.
So we had to do that first, and then we did the second half was all about the firefighting aspect of firefighting. Ladders, hoses, going in, rescues. Making sure you can get out.
Right.
It was very hard, intense. 7 in the morning till 4 or 5 o'clock at night. Monday through Friday, and then graduated and got put in the 83 engine as a probie for a year, and that's why I was pretty much stayed in the South Bronx on 138th Street in St.
Okay.
Anne's Avenue.
There was a TV show with Dennis Leary, Rescue Me. Did you ever look at that show?
I've watched it. Yes, yeah. It's
Yeah.
probably one of the better ones out there that kind of do depict what it was like or what it is like.
Well,
Well, when I
that's
was
what I
there,
wanted to talk to you about to see how close to real that show was compared to some other shows. Because I've watched, I don't know if there's necessarily been any other shows. Maybe Chicago Fire. I think that's still on the air right now. But Rescue Me was a really good show. I love that show. It was one of my personal favorites. I'm a
Yeah.
big Dennis Leary fan. I know he does a lot for the
So am I.
firefighters.
Yeah. Yes, he does. Yeah. He
Yeah.
does an excellent job for the firefighters here, and I think it was his cousin or something was killed up in outside of Boston in Worcester
Yeah.
years ago, and they started doing fundraisers. And yeah, Dennis Leary is a yeah, he's a good guy, and yeah, I would say Rescue Me was pretty. I watched it, and I was pretty, close as it can get, to reality in a firehouse in New York City.
Yeah.
Obviously they had to show some kind of drama and stuff like that, but I thought it was pretty well done.
Okay.
Obviously, it was a good show.
Right. And it kind of comes out, it's got a lot of ties into 9/11 as well, with
Hmm.
the cousin aspect. So let's start here. So you're on the job, you got it, at this point, what close to a decade or whatever under your belt, right?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
So how were you on duty on 9/11? Because I mean, by and large, nobody had any idea when they went to bed on 9/10 that they were going to have to deal with these circumstances the next day. When they woke up. So were you guys on duty at the time? Were you off duty? What was that?
Yeah, I had come in the night before Monday night. We usually use a 24-hour shift.
Right.
So you come in at 6 o'clock at Monday night, and you're on the job until 6 o'clock Tuesday night.
Okay.
That's the way it kind of worked. So I had gone in Monday night, after the kids got off the bus, you know, kissed them, kissed my wife. I said, "I'll see you later," like a regular, normal going to work day.
Hmm.
Went to the firehouse, and it was a pretty slow night. A couple of EMS runs, and I was driving too. I was a chauffeur. Yeah. So the morning of, we had a brand new captain come to the firehouse. I had the house watch the night before, so it was early in the morning. I heard the buzzer, got up, let him in. Uh, Brand new captain from Brooklyn. So, the Brooklyn and the Bronx firefighters, we have a little, it's a little competition.
Yeah.
Who's better, who sees bigger fires, Bob, yada yada yada. So he came in, and guys were still up, sleeping for the night and taking them easy, and some guys were coming in. So I said, "Hey, Cap, I'll get you want a cup of coffee, yada yada yada," and yeah, I got coffee, and I gave him a cup of coffee, and we started just talking about, where you're from, blah blah blah. Brooklyn. I'm like, well, you're in the Bronx now, so hopefully we'll have something for you today. Not knowing, what would happen, transpire later on. So,
Right.
some guys came in. A guy with me was Billy Martin, Paul Fowler, Mike Collardi, and Mike had come in, and Billy was a driver too, a chauffeur. So we just said, "Hey, who's driving today?" And Mike said, I'll do it," because he had what they called a seat, because he was a senior man.
Hmm.
So he said, "I'll drive. I got it. No problem." And so we were just, basically starting our routine with, getting the rig ready, making sure, checking oxygen bottles, making sure Scott packs work, make sure the radios were charged, lights were charged. And then all of a sudden, everybody's like, "Yo, what the hell happened?" It was on the TV, and, the guy was sitting there going, "Oh, it's a small Cessna," and we're like, What's going on?" Blah blah blah. And we started getting kind of panicky in the firehouse with guy, and we knew we were going to go, so we started getting our gear. And then the second, half an hour later, the second tower was hit, and right when that was hit, they said, "Hey, we're going for sure." And then the tones went off, and we got the ticket. Basically, comes off a computer ticket. And Mike, the captain grabbed that new guy. He grabbed it. Mike, we all got on our rigs. Uh, well, 83 members got on the rig, our engine. We got on the rig, and I remember calling my wife and saying, "Not gonna be home today. Put on the TV, blah blah. Put on the TV. Not gonna be home tonight." And she's like, "I see it. Oh my god." So I just said, "I love you, and I'll talk to you later."
So
And
at that point, was it even like a thought in y'all's minds that those buildings would come tumbling down? Because, like you said, that first one, footage never really surfaced of that first tower getting hit. I know there was like something going on in the streets, and somebody did catch it, but that didn't come out until much later. So a lot of people didn't know exactly the size of
size of the
whatever it
plane.
was that
Right.
hit. Yeah. So
Exactly.
I know that could have been, you think a Cessna. I mean, obviously, somebody was driving it, so there's going to be some deaths, but you don't think it's going to cause the kind of damage that would lead to, what eventually happened. But with the world's eyes being on it at that time, with it being all over the news and on every channel, that's about the time when I got woken up and told to turn on the TV. I'm like just kind of getting my bearings, wiping my eyes, looking, and then you see the second one hit and that huge explosion, and I'm just like, holy shit! And that's when I
Yeah.
think it started clicking for everybody, what was going on, that we were,
Mm.
under some sort of attack. Was
I,
that
I
on
remember
y'all's minds?
that's exactly how a lot of guys felt. Like, not me personally, because I remember and it blew up and it kind of startled me, because we're watching it in the kitchen in the firehouse, and they're
Yeah.
like, what the hell was that? And the guy, Richie Kern, said, dude, that was a missile. There was something that we're, and we're like, what are you talking about? Like he couldn't fathom that this was actually a terrorist attack as being the firefighters, right?
Right.
So, I didn't really realize it, like you said, until later on, days later, when I actually watched some footage of it, and you can actually see it come back around the airplane, and like, but when you're watching it live, you don't even see that part. All you saw was the explosion
Right.
of the tower, right? So, next thing all hell kind of broke loose in the firehouse. Guys trying to get on. The captain was like, "No, just the regular crew," and so Mike takes, and we're located right next to the Triborough Bridge,
Uh huh.
which connects Manhattan FDR, or you can go over into Queens on the Throgs Neck. So it's not that far to Manhattan. So he got a ticket, and I don't know what he was thinking, but at the end of the story, I'll let you know. But we got the ticket, we get in the rig, we go over the Triborough Bridge, and as you're going over the bridge into Manhattan, we're looking out the window, and you can see the towers on fire,
Right.
like just smoke everywhere. And I remember we were driving down, and Paul Fowler, call him Paulie, great guy. He was young, and he's like, can we get to? Did you get the nozzle today on this job? Which means like he has the nozzle of the fire. The fire.
Right.
It's a good position to be in. I mean, my buddy Billy Marr, we looked at each other like, we looked at Paul like, the nozzle? What are you talking about, dude? Look at what the hell are you talking about? You know? We just kind of chalked it up, whatever, and we were going down the FDR Drive. People just going up, trying to get the hell out of Manhattan.
Yeah.
Cars beeping, blah. We were trying to get down. We finally got down to, I think it was 35th Street and Second Avenue, and there was nobody there. Right, so the captain gets on the phone and he says, we're at the staging area, and they're like, where are you? And the captain says, I'm at 35th Street and Second Avenue. Like, no, you're supposed to be at engine 35, which is on 125th Street and Second Avenue, which
Oh wow.
is 90 blocks north. So we had to get out of the rig and try to finagle and get the rig to go back north. So we finally got back down, and the captain got on radio and told the dispatch that we were here. We're there. We're pretty close. You want us to keep going in, and they told us not to. So it took us a little while to get back up to 35 engine, and I remember pulling in, and there was like four engine companies still there, but no Chiefs cars and no other extra cars. And this is big Chiefs house, and uh, get out the rig. The captain goes in to find out what's going on. And this lady comes out of this bodega, and I don't know, don't mean to be anything. I'm just going to say, in Harlem, this lady comes out, and it's like, I don't know, 9 o'clock in the morning or something. She's like stumbling with a little brown bag in her mouth, and she's like, y'all going to the Pentagon? I'm like, lady, what are you talking about? Look down the street. Like, the Pentagon. We had no clue what was going on. Absolutely none. Next thing you know, it comes out, all the 5 rigs go down West Side Highway, and we can hear all kind of crazy transmissions on the radio, and we never realized that the first tower collapsed at all, because we were driving down, and one of the guys, Paul or something, like, got a phone call, and they were like, the building, like, half it collapsed, like part of it collapsed. Like, we're like, what? Like, just kind of shell shocked almost. And then when you go down the West Side Highway, the north and the south towers, they don't sit here like this when you're looking at them. They're like this, all right. So
Right.
if you understand, like
Yeah.
they're behind each other, so it only
Yeah.
looks like one tower. The
Right.
first tower collapsed while we were driving down there. Lights and sirens, radio was going nuts. We're just like looking at each other like, what the hell's going on? And so we got down there, and Captain's like, "Oh, grab this, grab that, grab this." I'm like, "Cap, this fucking 100-foot stories up. We don't. All these companies are in there. We're not gonna. We don't need all this stuff." But he told us, bring our hoses, and so we started walking in, and got down near the pedestrian bridge down there, and you can see all the rigs there. It was a little dusty, but it wasn't overwhelmingly crazy, And I remember, it's hard to say, but one of my memories is watching the jumpers, the
Yeah.
people jumping out of the building, and it was constant. It was they were making pack or whatever, but it wasn't one, two, or three. It was multiple people jumping at the same time, holding hands. And I
Wow.
told Billy, we're still walking down there, and I said, Billy, I can't look no more. I said, I can't look. So I kind of had my head down, walking, and you heard this like weirdest snapping sound, like metal snapping sound, and I looked up, and the tower started coming down. My buddy grabbed me and he said, "Run." We turned and we ran as fast as we could in our gear, but that wave just enveloped us. I I tell people, I think I was in the air for a good 20 feet or so. I don't even remember that part until I landed back down and I was on the ground and I could see the sunlight coming up. So I just knew to crawl towards that light. And we got back up, and you can hear one guy 83 engine over here, another Mike Clarney over there, Billy Martin over here. Like we were just so scattered. And then we got back together, and everybody was okay. Little dusty, full of shit. Sorry.
Yeah.
And we made our way back down to ground zero, and just saw nothing but destruction. But it was weird. I tell people like, what was it like that day? What was it like when it? I'm like, you ever go out in the snow? I don't know. Well, you're in South Carolina, but I'm from the north. But if you will go out in a snowy winter night and it's snowing, but you can't hear anything, but all you see is snowflakes. It's like that dead eerie silence. That's what it was like for a good 2 or 3 minutes, and then reality must have snapped into me because all it was just cars exploding, and people say, "Oh, cars don't explode." Now these cars were exploding because there was so many on fire, and then fire trucks were on fire. I remember grabbing fire extinguishers, trying to put fire trucks out. We walked in, and there was nothing there. It was just, where is everybody, kind of thing. And then we kind of got a hold and grip of us, and we started firefighting operations in 7 World Trade Center, but there was no pressure down there. There was no firefighting. There was no water coming out of the hoses. So we were like, all right, we get it. So we just started helping the helping the guys that didn't make it out. Like picking them up, putting them in stretchers, and bring them into the ambulance. But you knew you knew they were dead. You just knew that, and we did that for the whole afternoon. We had no idea. Then the jets came around later on in the afternoon, buzzing the city. We're like, what is going on? And then someone finally tells us, yeah, we're under attack, and they're going to hit the White House, the Pentagon. There's another plane coming. There's more planes coming into the city. We were like, what the hell's going on? It was kind of just a crazy, crazy point in time. But we all try to stay together, or at least kept in contact, not too far from each other. And just we're picking up, picking up people, firemen, civilians, and just trying to get him on the stretcher, put him on a sheet or whatever was available to bring him to this place that there was ambulance, kind of started to load up and go back and do that. And we did that all day, all night. And I remember probably, I don't know if it was maybe around 7:30, 8 o'clock, we found a bank of phones from the Verizon building or somewhere in that area, I believe. And someone said, "Yeah, there's a dial tones on it." So I remember there was hundreds of phones, but only a couple had dial tones. So I was able to call my wife and say, "Yeah, I'm alive," and tell the kids and everybody I love them. But obviously I'm not gonna be home today. Probably
Right.
won't be home tomorrow. Uh, and she was like, "Okay, you know, love you. Thank God you're okay." Next guy, same thing, calls his wife. It was real quick. And then we went back upstairs and continue, I don't know, just trying to rescue and, you know, put fires out. But by that time, a lot of people started coming in from out of town, like a lot of volunteers. And
Yeah.
it was crazy chaotic for those hours, but then it started to get a little bit of someone was in charge kind of feel like, you know, it was, it was a little bit more of a control guy. Like, they came to us and they said, "Hey, for you guys been here since the get go. It's 12 o'clock at night. Time for you guys to go." So we were able to come back to the firehouse, but on the way back we had stopped at a firehouse, 40 engine, I believe it was. And I remember going there. I mean, we stopped, but the the wives were there and the families were there, and they thought that we were the loved ones coming back, but we knew that they was one of the first companies, or we just knew what we had gone through, and it wasn't good. And then we were sitting around, and Mike Killarney comes out and he says that, "Hey guys, Tommy was working today," and Tommy Scholes was a firefighter in Engine A3, but was working down at 4 engine down at sea, the South Street Seaport, excuse me, which is not far. So they were probably second or third due into the trade center, and I was just crushed because he was a good friend of mine. I was just crushed, and then we went back to the firehouse and back to 83, back 29 in the South Bronx, and guys were waiting for us. We got him off the rig, and they were like, they saw ghosts because we were just so full of dust and debris, and smoke and stuff. Oh, and then that was that was good. That was it. And I said, "I'll go back down, but I'm not. I kind of feel bad because I didn't go down as much as I should have or wanted to, but I it was just too much. It was just too much to see, and I didn't want to continue seeing that constantly. So I had 4 kids, 4 little kids, and
Yeah.
I had a baseball coach, and I still had to do stuff, but I also was so worried about the guys, in the firehouse, and or guys who were just working on the pile down there. I mean, it was very dangerous. I mean, I've gone down. I went down a couple of times, and it was uh, it was probably more dangerous at that time because all the machinery, and
Yeah.
they're pulling and we had to GPS everything that we found, human remains or wallets. It's just something we always GPSed everything and bagged it up. And so then yeah, so a couple years later, uh, I was in a fire in the Bronx and I couldn't breathe, and I ran out of air, and guys pulled me out. I was okay, but I had to go to the hospital. And after that, I went down to the medical office and took a test, and the doc said, "You'll never fight a fire again." And it's the only thing I knew was adding to be a soldier.
Wow.
But
What was the
it was very
diagnosis?
hard. It's multiple things. It's main thing is called hyperactive airway syndrome from all the dust
Yeah.
and stuff. So smoke or any kind of cigarettes or cigars or anything like that, it affects me. Makes me cough. So it's like a form of asthma.
Right.
Plus, my sinuses were all messed up. I got sleep apnea. I got GERD. I got PTSD. But they're trying to take care of the guys. I mean, there's a lot of the guys who are dying and who are sick that I just I pray for their families every day, and you know um, one of the guys said it that day. He said it's just going to kill us in the long run. Here we are 21 years later, and I'm still here, but it's not a day I don't think about it. I think about my friends and stuff like that. But with peer friendships and family and seeking help, I'm in a lot better place. And speaking about it has helped me a lot. Like I said, I appreciate you having me on, and never forget because it seems that sometimes people do. Like it's
Yeah.
just another day for some people, and oh, today, oh, what's today? Oh, yeah. Like how old are you? Oh, I'm 19. You have no clue.
Yeah.
People got to realize that. And that's the only way we can educate younger people about that day is doing podcasts.
Right.
Going, I've gone to some places and spoke, at conferences and just to get the word out that we're still here and we never forgot, and it's a whole different world, but in the lives of a firefighter from 9/11 or anybody that was there that day, they they still remember every aspect of it, every moment of it. You know,
Yeah. I mean, I've sat here and I've not been able to really. There's nothing I can say almost because you've laid out the story, and I can't imagine the thought process that had to be going through your mind that day. Was it 343 firefighters? I think was the
right?
number that passed away. That's not counting the number of police officers that was there, countless numbers of civilians. Obviously, if anybody's able to make their way down to New York, I've went a few times in the past few months. You can catch the memorial fountains that they have. It's
Right.
really, really something to take in. I think anybody that goes there should go take a look at that. Everybody's names in there. You can go and find the names. A lot of people put flowers in the names. It's really a sight. Me personally, I never went to 9/11 while the two trade centers were there. I'd only seen them on films and things of that nature. I went down there my first time to New York was I think like a year after 9/11. My birthday's on Labor Day, so my birthday's the second.
Okay.
It was like the following year we went down there for my birthday, and they were still cleaning up. They still had everything like gated off, and that's like put that in perspective for a year, basically a little bit more. They're still cleaning.
There was still a lot going on down there. I mean,
Yeah,
they didn't like tell us to leave the pile until May 31st of 2002 because that's what they were like. There's nobody else, obviously, but they had cleaned it up. But like you said, I didn't go down there for the first couple of years because of just of the timing and the dramatic that event, and it was really just like a construction site.
yeah,
I mean,
that's
and
what
there
it
was
looked like. If I would have not known those
huge,
towers had fell,
right,
that's is what
right.
exactly what I thought it would have been was a construction site.
Yeah, they had all the big steel fence up there, and it was like you just couldn't go down. It was hard to do that. And guys, a lot of guys went down there, but a lot of guys understood it wasn't. Um, and I said I'm not going to come back until the memorial was finished, and I did when it came. And I've gone back up. I went up for the 20th last year. This year, I just kind of it was a Sunday. I just felt that I'm in North Carolina, and I want to do something just a little bit different instead of keep going up there
Right.
and rehashing everything every other year or every year. It's if I lived in New York, yeah, of course I'd be there every day or every year. But things go on and life is moving on and things are changing and
Well, I think one of the things that's captivating about that day is, nobody, obviously, nobody knew those things were going to happen. Then, after they happened, nobody knew what was going to happen after that. The building's collapsing. Um, And little split second decisions, lives were made and also lost. Um, I watched a ton of documentaries on this, and speaking with a few people, I know there was decisions made in one of the towers where people felt like going to the roof was the safest thing to do. So they were passing each other in the stairways, groups going to the roof, groups heading to the floor. Um, you know, Obviously the ones that went to the roof did not make it. So it's life and death situations, maybe even unknowingly, were being made those days. People barely getting out. I spoke with Eric Ronigan, who was one of the last documented people to make it out of the first tower that got hit. I think that's the North Tower. Um, so many things, so many quick decisions. Even you guys, you got down there. If you hadn't had to turn back around, you'd have probably been in there.
Hey, let me tell you something. That night when we were taking a blow, standing on, sitting on this big screen, big steel girder, and behind us with the Trions hanging over us, we were sitting there just, and I looked and guys tell me all the time, and it's true. I looked at Mike Killarney. I said, Michael, I said, thank you. He says, what are you talking about? I said, thank you, man. You saved our lives. You saved my life. And he didn't get it at first. He didn't understand it. And they were like, what are you talking about? Like, dude, if you didn't read that ticket wrong, we would have been in the towers. No doubt in my mind. There would have been 443 firefighters killed. There's 5 other engine companies that waited for us. The chief and some of his people that went down there and didn't wait for us, they all perished. They all died. So I always, man, Michael Killarney is his name, and he's a true hero to me because, like, as great as he was, and he's a great man, But if it wasn't really his fault, no one's fault. I mean, the captain told him where to go, he went, and it just, if there was different captains or different scenarios, I think '83 we would have been in the towers by the time it collapsed. So, like you said, uh, there's a will and there's a reason, and for the grace of God go I. But split section decisions, we turned out and I'm going to 35 Street and Second Avenue. If he would have went 5 minutes, it would have taken us 5 minutes to get over to the firehouse, but it took us about a half an hour to get there. And at first, some guys were pissed off because they were like, "Where are you guys been?" Blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, at the end of the story, everybody knows that '83 engine, Mike Maloney saved a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
mean,
crazy.
even you walking in, I understand where you were coming from, not wanting to see the people jump, because that's one of the big things that, I talk with people on. Eric, also mentioned that as people were just jumping. And he said, like, at one point in time, I think he said it was a gentleman, and he said it was like, he's obviously on the ground. So, he said they made eye contact like for a split second.
Mm,
And he said they hit the ground, and he said it was just horrible to watch. So even you ducking your head just to try not to look, I mean, you could possibly get hit by some of these people jumping. And I think that was actually documented that
yeah,
some people fell.
Danny Sir. His name is Danny Sir, and he was an engine chauffeur, and I think he was the first firefighter killed on 9/11 from a jumper. He was hooking up to the hydrant, and a jumper killed him, hit him, and then, it's like just here. This guy wasn't even in the buildings or around. He was just hooking up to the hydrant. He's a chauffeur, and he gets killed by somebody jumping. And like you said, I had to look away because like not it wasn't about the eye contact, obviously, but it was just the amount of people that were making these packs together to
Yeah.
jump. Yeah. And then, yeah, you put your head down, but you're still hearing him,
Yeah.
hit the awning, hit the cars, hit the ground. It's sad to say, but that was I still have that in my head. Just it's a distinctive thump.
Oh, I can
And
believe it. And, again, like we were saying, who would have thought it would have come to that, up there, and people were making those decisions? That has to let you know how bad it had to be up there in that building,
right. Absolutely.
because obviously, making that jump, that's it. There's no way you're gonna live through that. And
No.
it's just the circumstances up there had to be absolutely excruciating. We've talked a little bit in prior shows. The first building that hit, or they got hit rather, the way the plane hit that one, it completely severed all stairwells. So nobody above the impact zone, and that one made it out. The other one, the way that guy kind of came in at a bank dangle, it didn't sever all the stairwells. And there was a crazy story, and you may have heard of it, but I think it was called The Miracle of Stairwell B, where Jay Jonas and
Yeah.
some of his crew,
Seven from heaven or something like that.
yeah,
Something.
they were coming down, and I want to say her name was Francine. I can't remember, but they found a lady as they were doing quick floor sweeps, and she was injured, so they put her in a chair and was carrying her down these different flights. And they were having to stop, take a breath here and there. They heard the other tower fall, the first one fall, or the second one that got hit fell first. So they heard that one, and they're like, well, if that one can go, this one can go, so we need to hurry it up. And it's just like they were on like the fourth floor, third or fourth floor,
I like that. Right.
and the way the whole building, it basically just collapsed around them. It was that one little section of stairwell stayed intact enough, and all of them survived. And that's one or two turns earlier, one or two turns later, they don't make it. So many lives lost that day, but also many saved. And I think that's kind of where you got to look, is take the miracles where you can get them in situations like that. You yourself, the miracle of him actually reading that ticket wrong, or that guy, when you're looking down, him seeing that building coming down and he grabbed you. So many things had to go right for you to still be here, for your other coworkers to be here. And we're definitely glad you guys made it, but unfortunately, a lot of people didn't. And that's why I think it's important to keep these things going. I try to teach my son about it. He's 13, and just to teach him, how devastating that day was to America. I mean, it really is. And one of the things is, you always see the pictures, and I think you spoke about it earlier. The tagline for 9/11 is never forget. And while that's true, I think really also we need to not forget how the world and the nation was after 9/11.
Yeah.
In my,
Scott's thing.
in my opinion, that was probably the first time in my lifetime I could say that we were all one nation under God. It didn't matter how old you were. It didn't matter your race. It didn't matter your religion, your political affiliation, your gender. None of that shit mattered. Everybody was united. We loved each other, and America came together to rebound from this. And we've far since gotten away from that for one reason or another. But
Unfortunately, you're right. Yes.
I don't want another tragedy like 9/11 to have to force us to, come together like that again. I wish there's a way we could, do that on our own. But I think that's also something we need to never forget too, that, just like we know attacks can happen because it did, we know that America has the capabilities to come together. We've just got to figure out a way to do it, and hopefully not at the
Yeah.
results
Not
of
another not
tragedy.
another disaster or tragedy to make people realize that we're the greatest country on earth, and it's just you gotta just everybody's gotta chill and refocus and just know that we're blessed to be a part of this country. And
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you a question too. After this, what made you decide to come to North Carolina from New York?
well, like I said, I got retired. My dad worked in financial business down in Manhattan for 35 years. So he's a Duke guy. He retired and he moved down.
Okay.
He moved down here in '95. Actually, they left the day that I graduated the academy,
Okay.
and so they built the house down here in '95. And obviously, when after everything was said and done, a pension, my dad said, can live a little bit easier down here. So I moved down here 15 years ago, so 16 years, something like that.
All right.
Yeah,
Well, look,
love it.
man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the show. You've got an amazing story, and you can tell as you were telling it, you're still very emotional about it. I can't imagine you will ever be able to tell that story and not be. You're fortunate enough to a lot of your guys you were at least working with that day made it through, but also a lot of the guys you knew. That firefighter group, I know you talked about the kind of the competition between Brooklyn and the Bronx, but at the end of the day, all you guys were a brotherhood.
We're all FDNY at the end
Yeah,
of the day. We're all the
all,
brotherhood.
all FDNY, and I know so many people lost so many people close to them, and prayers to everyone that was lost, prayers to their families, prayers to even the ones that made it through that are still struggling today, be it with sickness or, a ton of survivor's guilt was, carried on after that. And just,
So a lot of guys still have it. We all still have it, you know.
yeah,
But
so there's so many people that need to be prayed for and continuing to be prayed for because, like we discussed, some guys are battling illnesses that went down there to help and try to help rescue, and they're now kind of starting to get hit with
yeah,
some of the things, diseases and whatnot. I mean, and then people that too that just have PTSD. That I mean, some of that stuff I can't even unsee it, and I wasn't there. I'm just going off visuals from TV. I can't imagine being there in person. I can't, you would think Eric spoke on our first episode with the 9/11 tribute, and he said for years, every time a train went off or a horn went off or thunder, it just, he was immediately put right back
hmm
in there.
yeah, I hear him. Yeah, I don't. Sometimes I don't like to be around large groups or
Yeah.
people. Like you said, if there's a plane flying low, you kind of like what's going on, looking a
Yeah.
loud bang will startle you just because that's what happened and it stays with you. And I want to say one thing: post traumatic stress is not a disorder. Disorder. It's an injury. People get that wrong. Post traumatic stress is not a disorder. It's an injury to your brain from what you saw. So that stigma about having a disorder kind of needs to, just say you have post traumatic stress. It's not, you're not sick. You got an injury, and
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I think you're 100% correct on that.
yeah.
Well, David, look, man,
All right.
again, I'm gonna tell you, I can't, I don't know how to show my appreciation for you coming on the show. I'm glad you could stop by and share your story. We're gonna put this up on all of our platforms, man, YouTube,
I
audio
appreciate
side,
it.
everything, and hopefully people will take a listen and just take into account, the stories that you and our other guests have shared for that day, and hope that everybody appreciates the sacrifices that a lot of people made that day. And again, our hats off to you. And not only do we appreciate your service to our country as your time, we also appreciate your service down there during 9/11.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Hollywood Wade. That was David Carpenter. And unfortunately, we are out of time. Tune in next week for an all new episode of Crime and Entertainment. David, we appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Never forget.
Exactly.